with the last few lessons, we took a look at a couple of the group policy settings that are available within the server operating system, and I'm going to do a mini-series after this particular lesson on just some of the group policy settings that are out there, because there are literally thousands of group policy settings that can be applied to a network. It just depends on what you'll need as far as whether or not you want to make those settings or adjustments to your actual computer. And so what I want to focus in on this particular video is the fact that when I apply group policy settings, I've been applying them on the default domain policy. However, we can actually create organizational units, and within each individual organizational unit we can apply specific group policies. And so now we're going to start focusing more a little bit about the management of our network and as far as our organizational units are concerned, especially in regards to making changes like group policy settings. And so I'm going to go to Start, Administrative Tools, Active Directory Users and Computers, and you can see if you've been following along through the lessons that we are going to have a couple of organizational units already created. And here this opened up. One thing I do want to point out on this particular lesson is the fact that if it's a pre-built one, like the computers or the users, you're going to notice that they don't have that little symbol that's located on there. I cannot apply group policy settings to this particular organizational unit. However, for the ones that I create myself, as well as the domain controllers, you can see that if you look here, I created this one here called manufacturing. You can see that symbol on it. Sales and shared folders are all ones that I created in the past lessons, and then also in addition to that, the domain controllers, which is a default organizational unit within our server. Those all have this little symbol on here, which is going to lead me to know that I can apply a group policy setting to this particular one. So let me just show you. I'm going to go to Start. I'm going to go to Administrative Tools now and open Group Policy Management. And if you take a look here, it's going to list those particular organizational units that I can apply some of these settings to. For instance, like the sales. If I open up the sales, I can see that within the sales I've also created the in Atlanta, Baltimore, and Kalamazoo location. If I were to expand the Kalamazoo location or click on it, I can actually create my own group policy object for just this organizational unit that will apply just to the users or computers that are part of this organizational unit. So this is what makes it so powerful, is the fact that I can actually change people's settings based on where I place the user in an organizational unit. And so I'm going to right click on Kalamazoo and choose to create a group policy object in this domain and link it here. I'll go ahead and hit OK, and I can call it whatever I want. I'm just going to call this one default, and I'm just going to use the name of my organizational unit to help manage if I have multiple ones, which one belongs to which. I'll just call it Kalamazoo, and I'll just also type in sales so that I know that belongs to the sales. I'll go ahead and hit OK, and you're going to see that here we go. We've just created a group policy object for the Kalamazoo organizational unit. I'm going to click on this and hit OK, and I can see if I look at the settings for this particular group policy object, there has been nothing defined, and so there really is nothing being applied here unless I actually make the change. And so let's go ahead and take a look at making this change. And so I'm going to go ahead and make a change here to the Kalamazoo default Kalamazoo sales group policy object by right clicking and choosing edit. And since I'm going to be mostly working with users, primarily the focus for this organizational unit is going to be focusing on the user configuration themselves. And so I'm going to go ahead and just expand, let's say, the policies, and I'm going to go ahead and expand the administrative templates, and it looks like I've got their start menu and taskbar. I'm going to go ahead and find something in here. Let's see, there we go. Remove music icon from the start menu. And so if you see here, I'm logged in under the client as John Adams, who currently is in my Kalamazoo organizational unit. So any settings I make here should apply to John Adams, but nobody else or anybody that's not in that organizational unit should not have those settings applied. So let's go ahead and test this. I'm going to remove music from the start menu. I'll just go ahead and double click it, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit enabled and apply OK. And so now that setting has been enabled, so I should no longer see the picture, or actually the music, from the start menu. So if I go ahead and run GP update and hit enter, and you can see now that the setting has been successfully completed. I go to start, and you'll notice music is no longer there. But what happens if I log out? I'm going to go ahead and log out here, and I'm going to show you here. I'm going to come back over here to our, there we go, Active Directory users and computers. And let's just take a quick look under Sales, Kalamazoo. I was logged under as John Adams, and he belongs to the Kalamazoo organizational unit, which is the organizational unit I just put that group policy object on. So he actually got these settings. However, I'm going to pick a different user. Like for instance, if I go to users, I've got my administrator user who is under a different organizational unit. So I'm going to go ahead and log in as the administrator, and I'll go ahead and just hit other user and go ahead and type in my domain /administrator, and I'll go ahead and log in with my password. And the domain administrator is going to log in, and since he is not in the Kalamazoo organizational unit but in the users organizational unit, I should not expect to have any of these settings applied. So if I go to start, I still have music. So this is one of the wonderful things about using organizational units and applying group policy settings, is the fact that you can target exactly whom you want to apply group policy settings to whenever you create them for specific organizational units. If I do move a user out of it, let's just say I move Thomas Jefferson out of Kalamazoo into Baltimore, you're going to get a little warning that pops up that says moving an object in Active Directory can prevent your existing system from working. And it says, basically goes through and gives you some ideas as far as it can affect the way that group policies are applied to the organizational unit. And so just be aware of that. If you do move somebody out who did have settings applied in one organizational unit, some group policy settings, and you move them to another one, those settings will be lost, and that user will then apply the new settings that are in that particular organizational unit. So you have to be aware of that when you're setting up. So this completes the video on creating organizational units and applying group policies to them specifically.